Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be in Jamaica wearing a shirt with a pot leaf on it after
Making crazy.
That or the farmer's market.
that. Yeah, exactly. That or a farmer's market, whatever, one or the other. Everybody, welcome to Drummers Education Connection. And we thank you so much for being with us today here on deck. Hey, we're going to do something new today that I didn't even tell the guys I was going to do. Then I'm going to explain why Fred's here in just a minute. But normally, here on deck, we pay attention to rhythms and polyrhythms, but now we're trying to tickle the algorithm. So if you watch us on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. That is so incredibly important to us. We're trying to build that channel. And as drummers, we all need to know more about algorithms. So there you have it.
Yeah.
It's important.
It's true,
Anyway, thank you for being on deck today. What'd you say, Rick? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that algorithm thing is super important.
It really is. It's very important, So anyway,
Great team, right? That we're drummers, but how much stuff do we have to do that's non-drummer related to make this
good
career?
Lord.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. Hey, so Chip and Jeremy aren't here, and we want to send our condolences to Jeremy. He lost a pet. He and his wife lost a pet last night, and so he is really not in a good place. And he was like, man, I'm just not up for doing the show. So we said, okay. And then Chip's not feeling well, so I shined the Fred light. And
I saw the bat signal.
he saw the bat signal. And so Fred Fisher from Boise, Idaho is here. We're going to do our normal thing. I'm going to kick it down there. What do you got good that is going on, Fred?
Oh, lots of good stuff. So 4th of July is my favorite holiday. And in my neighborhood, it's complete mayhem. And it's, imagine you go to the city park or whatever to see fireworks, right? Well, my whole neighborhood is that way. And it goes on for 2+ hours. And the 4th of July was on a Friday. So it was just completely awesome. And then the next day on Saturday, we went 2 miles north, about 100 miles north of Boise, to a ski resort called Tamarack, where my wife's band performed. So they had a 4th of July party up there on the 5th. And Tamarack is a very, I don't know if bougie is the right word, but it's very high-end resort up there. And they were supposed to put the band in 2 separate condos. Well, apparently they oversold those, and so the band didn't get them. And they said, sorry, we're going to have to put the whole band in the penthouse suite.
Oh, wow. What a bummer.
It was so great. It was so great. And just living the high life for a couple days up there in this penthouse suite. And we rode the ski lift up the mountain to this new restaurant bar that's up there, and spent time in the pool and the hot tub and all of this really, really cool stuff. And yeah, it was so relaxing and so great and just awesome. It was awesome.
Dude, that's killer.
Yes.
That is killer, man. I saw the pictures, and it looks like that resort that you were at looked like this place that we play every once in a while in New Mexico, or casino that we play at. That's where I thought it was at first. That's cool.
Very, very nice. It's a super high-end ski resort, and everything's beautiful and new. And this penthouse is a two level thing on the 4th floor. Wow. And it's just, it was awesome. It was awesome.
That's so cool, man. Well, good for you. Rick, what do you got going on that's good, bud?
Well, couple things. One, the fact that we could call Fred, and within 1 minute, Fred is on the show, coming in and stuff.
Yeah, it was like
Minute Man.
It was like 10 till.
Yeah.
Really was.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. My other good thing is my buddy who plays in the psychobilly scene up in LA, Ben 9K. He and his wife do a lot for rescuing dogs. And they have a company, and I'm wearing their t-shirt here. It's Dogula. And it's kind of a psychobilly vibe, but it's all about bringing awareness to adopting dogs. So They've got this cool, psychobilly kind of look with all of their shirts, and so all of the shirt sales go to help with foster and caring for dogs, and so they're doing really, really good work. Bart, I know that speaks to you because you rescue pits.
Yeah, and I was going to say, let's talk after the show, and maybe you can hook me up with him because I really am interested in that. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
My house is a friggin' zoo, so yeah, I'm totally down about. That's really cool. My wife will jump all over that.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to talk about that. And so, thank you, Ben, for the cool Dogula shirt. Look at those wings. Oh man. Very rocky.
So awesome.
Yeah.
What's happening with Bart?
Yeah.
We're getting ready to head back out and finish up this tour that we're in the middle of right now. We got one more show here on the West Coast, and then we head back east for 4 more shows, I think, and then we're kind of wrapping it up for this particular run. So I'm excited about that. I started a new little thing on my personal YouTube page that is around my new book, Drum Up Your Business. I'm going to be uploading the first video for that today. So I'm doing a video. It's kind of like, it's not like this, like our podcast. It's just kind of like some little shorts like I've done in the past. And so I'm going to upload that first one today. So if you could go to my YouTube page, Bart Robley, just put my name in YouTube and tickle that algorithm. That would be great. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. So anyway, that's what I got going on. Hey, nice. So and actually the tour that we're in the middle of kind of spawned the thought process for today's topic. And the topic is, have you painted yourself into a corner? And this is what's happened to us. Okay. So the tour started like this. We started this particular run in June, and it started in Texas. It went up through Michigan, over into Wisconsin, into Ohio, into Kentucky, and then we flew home for 3 shows out here. The third one is a Saturday, kind of a local one, and then we fly back again, as I just stated a minute ago, my good things. We fly back to Nashville, grab the bus and the trailer, and head out for the last 4 shows. Now, since we did that, what we decided to do is that we have our own in-ear monitor system that we travel with, and it's in a refrigerator rack. That thing in and of itself, that rack in and of itself is $50,000 worth of gear. It's crazy the amount of money that's in that rack.
Yep.
And when we play in our ears, it sounds like I'm playing with a record. It sounds so good, and it's incredible. Now, I think every musician can relate to this because we've all been in situations where we walk off stage, and the second we get into the dressing room, the green room, the backstage area, or to the side of the bar, we start making the myriad of excuses going, well, I didn't play good tonight because I couldn't hear this and I couldn't hear that, and the bass was too loud and the singer couldn't, everybody has our excuses. My guitar tone was this, my guitar tone was that, and everybody's crying about why they didn't play well. Well, one of the things that I did years ago, I said, no more excuses. If I have a bad night, I had a bad night. It's human and it's over with, and I'm moving on to the next show. However, having an in-ear monitor system as elaborate as ours, when you don't have it, now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is so raw. This is just raw, and it sounds different. It's the wedge monitors are back on stage and they're screaming loud, and there's feedback, and they got to ring the feedback out. We never have feedback issues. There's all kinds of stuff that happens now that we've done these 3 shows without our in-ear monitor system. And so the conversation came up, man, we really painted ourselves into a corner with that in-ear rack system. because we're so used to hearing everything perfect. I have my tablet, which is right down there, and I run my own mix. If I need a little bit more of this or a little less of that, I turn it up and down. And all of us have our own mixes on stage. And it's incredible. We absolutely love it, and we're really spoiled with it. And then when it's not there, you're like, what the hell's going on? Now, I think that this can carry over to the conversation as it is with in-ear monitors, right? But as drummers, there are so many times where we have to play a backline kit. We fly all the time, and we have to play backline. Or I have to play, maybe we're the opening act and I've got to play the headliner's drum set. That has happened to me. I have to share a drum set with somebody else, whatever. And I'm a firm believer in, sit down and play. If you got to raise the snare drum a little bit or something, or raise the hi-hat, that's fine. But sit down and play. Do your job. Much like our friend Fred Fisher today. Fred, we need a third guy on deck. Can you come on? He was just like, yeah, I'm there. And I think that's the one thing, you learn right away. If somebody offers you a gig, you don't say no. You go, yeah, I'll do it. What time? What time you need me there? What do I need to bring? You may not even know the songs. You just, okay, yeah, let's go. What are we playing? Been there, done that. So anyway, that's my thought process behind it. Have you painted yourself into a corner? How much do you rely on your gear? Do you have to have your gear to perform well? And should you have to have your gear to perform well, or can you just sit down and play?
Yeah.
So there you go. There it is.
Yes.
Oof. Run, go. Let me hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, one, can you play the drums or not?
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
That's the first question. And if you can, then you can handle being uncomfortable for a short period of time.
Yep.
Maybe the cymbals aren't exactly where you want it, or the heights, or even the tuning, or whatever the case may be. But are you there to solve problems or cause problems?
There you go. There
And
it is.
I think it's really easy to get, well, I don't know, easy, but there's a comfort obviously with playing your own gear because it's exactly how you want it. And I've played plenty of festival shows where doing in-ears isn't an option. You got a wedge. I hate having a wedge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've got my click and all of that. So sometimes I'll have my click station ready to go, and I'll just have one ear in and one out, kind of like I do right now. This one's out, so I can hear the wedge and I can hear my click, and away you go. But you don't need to be a prima donna about all of this stuff. You want to be the people that are like, oh, we can rely on them because they're making this happen. They're making accommodations to do that. Like, do you know the songs? Can you play the drums? And away you go. And maybe the monitor's not perfect, but the people that are paying to come see you, they don't care about all of that stuff. They want to see the show. So make the show happen. Make it happen.
Completely.
Yeah.
Rick,
I think you have to be, ideally, you're really, really prepared, and the song inside and out, and it doesn't matter what the rest of the band is doing. You don't even need to hear them, and you're just laying it down. Like I'll know the arrangement. Okay, this is 8 bars and this is 8 bars. And sometimes I might count if the mix is so bad, or I'm just singing the song in my head and like, here's the beat, because more times than not, mixes are disasters. So I've done so much work in the psychobilly scene where it's one kit and 4 bands or 5 bands are sharing that kit. And the strike between the bands is 10 minutes, 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And it's a skill. And I think it's something we should develop. We're always trying to set everything up perfect all the time. So I would consider setting stuff up wrong. and just, why not experiment? Get used to that, right? we're always practicing with these ideal mixes and setups. But that's not always what we're going to get when we go live. So you really have to adapt. And if you make a mistake, just don't worry about it. Just keep moving forward. That's the whole thing. The audience does not know whether it's supposed to be or whether it's
Yeah.
whatever, as long as you
Totally.
don't as long as you don't make a look on your face like, oh man, I messed up, and tell the audience you made a mistake. They're there for the vibe and the energy. So things could be a disaster, honestly, but if the band is kicking off a good, confident vibe, hey, then you're getting the job done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that when you sit down to play, and if you're like Fred said, can you play or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you there to be a servant, or are you there to cause problems?
Yeah.
And when there's nothing worse, and I found myself doing this, so this is why I'm even bringing this up. There's nothing worse than at the end of the gig, you're going through a Rolodex of why the performance was bad, and the performance was bad because of the monitor mix or the guitar tone, or I'm playing a backline kit and the snare drum didn't sound like mine, and there's this whole plethora of things that have nothing to do with you. It's you're pointing the finger at everything else. Well, tonight's gig sucked because, well, tonight's gig sucked maybe because you weren't on top of your game,
Mhm.
and that's the way that it always is. I remember the other night, the first gig that we did here on the West Coast without our in-ear rig. I remember at sound check, getting the sound check up and doing like we've done a million times. And we, there's times when we play and we don't have our in-ear rig. I don't want to make it sound like it's always there. I would say it's there 95% of the time. This particular gig, because of the circumstances, we're a bit behind the 8 ball with the sound crew. And so we got through the sound check and it was doable, but it was not the best of circumstances. And I remember asking Greg, our bass player, I was like, was it always this bad before? I mean, did it always sound like that? He's like, oh yeah, that's what it always sounded like. I'm like, oh yeah, it's been so long, And we went up, we played great. The audience was amazing. The venue loved us. They wanted us back for sure. There were so many positives that came from this gig because we got up, we did our job, we did it well, and they wanted us back. As a matter of fact, they've already hired us back for next year's concert series. So I think it's a testament to what you're saying, Fred. Can you play or can you not play? Right?
Yeah. You got to be able to just step in and adapt immediately to whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
It's well, I mean, just for example, I got a text message. I think it was about 10, 12 minutes before the hour. Like, it's a 911. And just as I was getting ready to text you back, he called me, and my dad was getting ready to drop somebody off the airport, which isn't far from here. He's like, hey, I'll come by and have coffee or whatever. And Mary's like, but your dad's coming over. And I'm like, well, I'll hang out with Dad. I don't teach till 1:30. So when I'm done with deck, then we'll hang out. I go, that's the music business. You never know. It's like, yeah, my friends need me. I'm going to go. I'm on my way.
Dude, that is so commendable. That is so commendable. And I've watched this happen before where it kind of the opposite happened. And again, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, where, hey man, I really need you here. Can you be here? Well, I don't know. I don't think I can. It's got to be perfect. And when I say that, I'm pointing to the old version of me years and years ago when I first started out. I think, I was like a lot of young players out there. You kind of have to learn by walking through the fire.
Yeah.
You have to learn by sitting down behind the drum set that is phenomenally uncomfortable, and the cymbals are way too high or way too low, whatever the case is, and just throw down.
Yeah.
There's only one way to do that. They don't teach you that in music school.
Right.
And somebody a minute ago said something about auditioning and whatever, but I had a student that was auditioning for a band. And well, Rick, when you said set things up different, and my student comes in and they're like, okay, yeah, I got this band. I'm going to go audition for them. And how many drummers are auditioning? I don't know. There's probably quite a few. It's kind of a cattle call thing. I go, okay, cool. I go, stand up for a second. And this kid's ready to play these songs for me. Okay, stand up for a second. So he stands up. I raise the snare drum really high, and I just push one of the toms out of the way, and I move the ride cymbal, and I just screwed up the drum set. I go, okay, play the songs for me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, dude, I didn't totally jack it up. I just made it so it wasn't perfectly comfortable. I go, well, dude, if you're doing a cattle call and they're running 50, 100 drummers, it's up at SIR Hollywood. So there could be 100 drummers.
Yeah.
They just want to hear whether or not you know the song. And you're going to have 3 minutes to, okay, just get the snare drum right. Just get the snare drum to where you can play the snare drum and then maybe move the hi-hat and then just play, So.
Yeah. Well, so you talked about like painting ourselves in a corner. Do you mean like we get we can get very used to and comfortable with just having our things our way all the time, and if it's not that, then it's a complete no-go? Like, do you think that we're handcuffing ourselves to our own comforts?
I think a lot of people do. That was that was the thought process behind the topic. Yeah, because it's easy to do.
Yeah.
I've mentioned before I play with this country artist Cliff Miller, and we've done several opening acts or opening spots for national acts where I bring my drum kit with me, and you get there and they've taken up the whole stage with whatever their production is. Yeah. And I've had the tour manager come to me and say, hey, if you're cool with it, our drummer's cool with it, if you just want to play his kit. And I'm like, cool. And they're like, just put your own brass up. Yep. And if you're cool and try not to move anything. Well, now I'm the guest, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm being hosted. And so when I'm a guest at somebody's house, I don't rearrange the furniture.
Yep.
I just show up and I hang out and I have a good time. Well, now I'm a guest in this person's house. I'm not going to rearrange the furniture. I'm going to set at the kit and I'm just going to play my show. Is the snare drum a little high? Maybe. Is it a little low? Maybe. Is the ride cymbal way up here instead of down low and flat? I don't care. That's not going to stop me from playing the song. It's not going to stop me from smiling and having a good time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't have to pack it up.
Yeah. This kind of makes me think about in the old days with my brother and I and our band Be Wild. When we were working on drum parts and songs, Robert led the band, and he kind of would be the final say on what the part would be. And he always said, if you can't nail the part all the time, it's too complicated. Mm-hmm. And because I try something really, really fancy, go, oh, that's so cool. He's like, all right, but you're not getting it every time in rehearsal. Let's simplify it too. So I think you could paint yourself in the corner by being a little bit too gnarly with your parts. So it's definitely something to think about. Can you nail it every time? Of course, we still want to be able to challenge ourselves, but I think that's something that people should consider when they're creating their parts, their drum parts.
Yeah, I think ever since I've ran across Bart on Facebook doing his on the road tutorials, I've watched every single deck episode in its entirety. Every single episode for like the last 2 years. I haven't missed any of them. And Bart said multiple times throughout these episodes, we're in the service industry.
Yeah.
Not as
I believe that. I firmly believe that we are.
yeah. So it's no matter if I'm here in my own room with my own kit, I'm serving my band members, I'm serving the songs, I'm hosting the rehearsal. And then when you're out on the road, as you guys well know, and you're spending a lot of time watching pavement go by, you know,
There's a lot of that.
You know,
like,
Fred,
A
I
lot
want
of
to.
that.
Maybe this is a little off topic, but I really want to address this because it's just so rocking of you. We're on episode, I don't know, 218, 219 at this point.
yeah.
And we're really honored. There are drummers who contact us who want to be on the show. And we always have to analyze. We'd love to have invite everybody who wants to be on the show on it, but we only have a certain amount of shows and guests and topics.
Sure.
But so Fred, we go live on Facebook and YouTube, but Fred is there all the time watching the show and making comments and contributing and making insightful comments just online when the four core are already doing already on. And then so it's the obvious choice, like, well, hey, let's have Fred on. 'Cause Fred is participating. Fred knows the drill. Fred is contributing to it already, and it's that cooperative kind of thing. And so that's how to do it. I mean, and I think that attitude will get you in a band, and that cooperative attitude will get you far in life and help create a lot of happiness. So it's just like a person who's trying to get an endorsement. They have no track record, and they're calling up Ludwig Drums or DW Drums. Hey, I want to be an endorsement.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, or I want to be an endorsee. And they're like, well, who are you? What are you doing for the, how are you marketing my company? So
Yeah.
that's, I know I'm going off a little bit, but I think while we have you on here,
I think it all ties in, Rick. It's like, I don't say yes to everything because there's some stuff that, I don't know, just goes against my career, maybe.
You only play at gigs that give you penthouse suites in luxury.
And it wasn't even my gig. It was my wife's gig.
That's what I'm saying. Can you imagine the gig at Fred's band?
Yeah. I'm going to ride her coattails instead.
You ought to fire her drummer, man.
Well, he's the band leader.
I'm joking. That was a joke. If you're watching this, that was a joke.
Yeah.
Well,
Bad one, but it was a joke.
Have you ever painted yourself into a corner by accepting a gig?
No, I have. Yeah. I'm gonna. So can I tell a quick story of how not to be?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say the name of the band or the drummer because it's a famous band from the 70s. And we opened to them numerous times. And this one particular gig, matter of fact, it was kind of weird. It was this big warehouse gig out here in Riverside. And the guy that owns it, multi-millionaire, and he loved guitars. So he decided, and he employed a guitar repair tech who worked on like super famous guitars. Like he worked on Ronnie Wood's guitar, and he actually worked on Frankenstein once. It's one of the few people that worked on Eddie Van Halen's guitar other than Eddie. He worked on some really famous guitars, and this guy worked for the owner of the store. And he always thought, well, if you're going to buy and he only sold high-end guitars. Like he didn't sell cheap guitars. So he was like, well, if you're going to buy a rock star guitar, you should try it out like a rock star. So he had the adjoining warehouse set up as a showroom. Well, he had so many high-end people that he worked on their guitars that they would come in and play. He would hire them to come in and play. It was this whole thing. And then local bands would come in and open up. Well, we were opening up to a very, very famous band from the 70s. And the only rule when you played there was you had to play the house gear. That was it. You just showed up and you played. Even their brass on the drum set, you played their stuff. And the drummer for this band was he was kind of notorious for being really not the best person in the world to work with. And so we basically played the same kit, one up, two down. And the only difference was that I'm tall. So I'm taller than this guy. So whenever I play a backline kit, my MO is this. I bring my own throne and I bring my own snare drum and snare drum stand. Because then if I'm playing, if I have the moment and I can change that out, it's so easy. I just move the snare stand out of the way. I move the throne out of the way. I put the snare stand up and the snare drum and the throne, and let's go, And if I have time, I will raise the first floor tom. If there's two floor toms, I'll raise the first one to where it's comfortable for me. And so that's what I did. And I told the drummer who we had worked together before, I said, look, we got to play the same kit and this is what's happening. So I'm going to put my throne and my snare drum up and I'm going to raise the floor tom a little bit. Well, I wish you wouldn't raise the floor tom. Okay, no problem. I won't. I'll leave it. I'll play it without raising. I just put up my snare drum stand and throne, sit right height. I'm good to go. You cool with that? This dude threw a temper tantrum like it was something on a Spinal Tap. He was like throwing shit around the back room. I mean, he was losing it. It was stupid. Oh, and the guitar player came up and he's like, "Don't worry about it. He's always got some drama going on. Don't worry about it." So I'm like, "Okay, man." So we do the gig. Gig went great. Pack up, get out of there. About 3 weeks later, we're opening to him again. This time it's up in Ventura, California. So we're up the coast and we're bringing our gear, no backline, but they're flying in. They're flying in from back east. Well, like every drummer ever knows that when you fly to a backline gig, bring a bag of sticks. I have one of those little Vic Firth bags. Actually, I have a Harem bag now that holds like 3 or 4 pair. If I'm doing like a fly in, fly out, that's what I do. I got 4 pairs of sticks. That's what I take. Mm-hmm. He shows up without that. He doesn't even have that. Oh, right. No. And 2 weeks earlier, he's throwing a temper tantrum and throwing, food all over the dressing room. And now, hey, Bart, what's going on, bro? How are you? Man, I look at this beautiful drum set they got for me to play. You know what? I forgot to bring sticks. Could I borrow some sticks? And I'm like, yeah, man, sure, whatever. I'm not going to lower myself to his level. And so I grabbed a couple pairs of sticks. I gave him 3 pairs of sticks. I go, here you go, man. And he goes, you don't have anything, these are kind of thin. You don't have anything fatter? I use like 2 beats. I'm like, well, dude, you want me to run to Guitar Center and buy them for you? What do you, I didn't say that, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, no, dude, that's what I got. Okay, well, I really appreciate it. And so his drum tech goes out, and he did. His drum tech probably went to Guitar Center. I don't know where he went, but he went and found a place, and he bought him 3, 4 pairs of sticks and brought them in. Guy didn't even give me back my drumsticks.
Oh, man.
It's like, what a dick. So now, what does this have to do with painting yourself into the corner? Well, dude, it could have very well been that if I was a jerk and 3 weeks later I ran into the guy again, I mean, a lot of people think that the music business is this big business, right? And how am I ever going to break in? Well, once you're kind of in here and you're working and you're doing your thing, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows everybody, right? And
personally or by reputation.
Totally. Chris, what's the drummer for Foreigner? Chris
Frazier.
Chris Frazier. I backlined him when he was with Edgar Winter. I backlined him one night in Oregon. He played my kit because the backline kit was literally a turd. It was a piece of junk. He played my kit with Edgar Winter. 6 months later, we're in New Mexico. and he's now with Eddie Money. And we run into, dude, what's going on? Hey, thanks for backlining me that night. Pop, high five, you know. Everybody knows everybody, and you're always going to cross paths again. You're always going to cross paths again. So, you know, it's going to come back to bite you in the butt if you're a jerk and you paint yourself into that corner. So there's my story. I know it was a long one and I was a little long-winded, but I think that's teaching from a place to younger drummers and younger players of kind of what not to do. You know, don't be that guy or girl.
Yeah.
Be cool. Be cool. Just be cool.
It's all about the hang.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Should we catch up on a couple comments? I think that's normally Chip's job, but I'm willing to do it.
Do it, Fred. Do it. Do it. Go, Fred.
James Harrison is here, my buddy James. He said if you grew up with in-ear monitors, large wedges or cabinets are brutally loud and harsh. If you grew up with wedges, the in-ears take time to adjust to. When it comes to playing backline kits, I usually don't care or have a problem with the drums or setup. But my biggest problem is usually the feeling of the bass drum pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all probably experienced different tensions on bass drum pedals, but it comes back to what I said a few minutes ago. Can you play the drums or not?
Right.
And I think if you're well accomplished at your craft, you can navigate around those things pretty easily. Yeah. And just play.
And this maybe goes against what we've been saying as far as what I've been saying is like sit down and play. But one of the things that I will do if I'm playing a backline kit is I carry my own bass drum pedal as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to use it. Like, you know, the other day, at deck day, you know, I have my pedal with me and I was going to put it up and I'm like, this pedal's fine. I don't want to make more trouble for the rest of the guys. If they're going to use this pedal, I'll play this one, whatever. And this was one of the reasons why I choose to endorse and play trick bass drum pedals. The quick release on that pedal is so fast. You literally squeeze it, slide it off the drum. You don't have to, you squeeze it, slides on and off. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons over and above I love the direct drive feel of that pedal and the durability of it. But how fast you can put it on and off the drum was a big deal to me because of situations like that. What if you find yourself when you're playing a backline kit, you're using your pedal and you have to go fast? So,
right.
Yeah.
I think my experience is if you're doing a show where you're sharing the same drum kit and everybody on the gig is all pro level drummers, usually the drums sound pretty good. The setup from drummer to drummer isn't a big learning curve of like, how am I going to net? Because we all set up as a pro would, right?
Right.
Right.
So it's like your bass drum tension is probably going to be similar. And because we've learned all of that through all of our experiences on what works and what doesn't.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. One thing for sure is your bandmates are not going to be up for any excuses. I know we talked a little bit about that, but if things go wrong, you're not going to be able to say, oh, well, the drums weren't set up right. They really don't care. They don't really get it, really.
Yeah.
And so
you have that to me, and this is maybe a touchy subject, but let's throw it out there and see if it sticks to the wall or if I get shot down by a guitar player. Guitar players, I've had one guitar player in my entire life, and this was when I very first started in the business. And it was the first guy where I kind of started realizing that a guitar player's tone was such a big deal to him. This guy had his guitar and he had this customized Marshall half stack, and and Spinal Tap says that they go to 11. This had one extra knob, and it was literally a volume knob. And his tone, he would always brag about it. He would say, everything on this amp is all the way up, and then there's the volume knob. That's all it does is control the volume. And for a volume pedal for his solos, he had an EQ pedal. He didn't have a ton of pedals on stage, right? That's all it was. And he was the only guitar player I've ever played with that didn't I mean, he was like, that was his tone, and he was always happy with it. That's what it was, and he loved it, right? And over the years, there's so many guitar players that I've worked with that, and I understand having good tone. Believe me, when I sit down at my drum set, it's not one instrument; it's a symphony. There's instruments everywhere, and every one of them have a certain tone to them.
Yep.
But guitar players, it seems, really let it bother them. Like if their tone is not right, man, that's all you hear about all night. It's like, oh, my tone, my tone, my tone, my tone. And it's like, dude, just can you play or not? Like Fred said.
Yeah.
Can you play or not? you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I think as you're telling me that story, or telling us that story, is there's those musicians out there that think the latest gadget is the secret to playing better. It is. It's you could go down the rabbit hole of different muting options for drums. I know a drummer that's like on his third or fourth set of drum mics because he's trying to find the greatest drum sound. And my thought was, have you tried tuning? Maybe you should start there.
You can tune the drums. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
No factory preset. You can actually change those.
Pump the brakes. Wait a second.
Oh,
All these years, you can tune these things.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, well, you'll see like, oh, he had this kind of mic, and then this 6 months later, all these other mics, and then all this other mics, and it's like, why?
Right.
What the microphone isn't the secret.
Right.
It's the tuning. It's like, have you start there, but it's like, oh, if I have this really expensive drum mic, that's gonna be the game changer, or the special bass drum beater, or a special spring on your pedal, or whatever it is. They're searching for the item, the little a gadget of some sort that's going to make all the difference. Can you play or not?
Right.
Yeah, you know what? Let me throw this out there after you said that, because it rang a couple of bells for me. I think that if you have a perfect word for it, a new gadget on your drum set, all it should do is help you and make your life a little bit easier, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's my friend Adam Parsons, right? He was on the show. He's involved in so many drum things, and I just love this dude. And he got involved with this thing called the Drum Buddy, right? And actually didn't get involved with them. He buys them and he's distributing them through Adam's drum room and getting them to all of his drummer friends. And it's this little thing that clamps onto a hi-hat stand, and you put your water bottle in it, and your cell phone stands there, holds some drumsticks, and it's just this gadget that's fun to have on the drum set. It just makes life easier. Okay. And if I don't have one, then I'll just grab a stick out of the stick bag and I'll put my water on the ground. But it's, it's just this cool thing. I think that's what gadgets and things should do. And I do agree that, different mics are going to have different sounds. I have the new Audix D6X. I've got one in my kick drum, and then I've got one in a floor tom that I'm using as a floor tom mic. Right. I think it's a great microphone for picking up low end. I got an endorsement deal with Porter and Davies. And I'm going to be buying one of those thrones, but it's hard for me to justify right now. I've got a couple of expenses, spending $1,000, $1,500 on a drum throne right now. So I'm going to hold off till the end of the year. I did get the deal, but I'm going to hold off to the end of the year to get it. But it's not going to make me, I don't think it's going to make me play better. It's going to make me more aware, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to help certain areas, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. So,
yes. I mean, I already know the answer to this, but it's a little rhetorical, but like, if you don't have that Porters and Davies drum throne, can you play the gig?
No, I'm going home.
Or if the unit, or if the Or if the unit completely shuts down mid-show, like show's over, I can't feel the kick drum in my butt.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Totally. Yeah.
It's like, you just
Yeah.
go. You just go. I have you probably can't see it, but I have this little Ludwig pocket kit, little kids drum kit. And I sit at it frequently when I'm teaching. And then I have the Ludwig breakbeat beats kit next to it, and then my big DW kit on the other side of the room. But
yeah,
when I'm sitting at this little kit, I'm a giant, right? I'm huge, but I could still go. You know,
yeah.
I can't even do that on my drum set.
I could go. I'm not sure if I can play drum.
So funny. So funny. So fellas, have you ever painted yourself in a corner accepting a gig?
In a different sort of way, but yeah, I have.
Yeah.
How about you, Fred? I'll tell my story last. I've been talking a lot. What's your story? I'll tell mine.
Well, I don't feel like that I painted myself in. Well, there are shows I've played that I probably should have said no to.
Yeah.
We've all had those. Yeah.
So why? Why?
And maybe they were filling gigs or and it usually wasn't an equipment related thing. It was like a personality clashing of something going on.
Yes.
There was a band I filled in for, this has been several years ago now, but in between every song, the keyboard player, who was also the band leader, started giving me instructions on what the next song was. And he would burn like 2 minutes. I'm like, let's just go.
Wow.
You would burn 2 minutes doing what?
Giving me instructions on how the next song is going to go.
This
like,
is
I've done my homework. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Telling you how you're going to play your part or how the song. Really?
Yeah. And he really wanted me to play a digital kit. So I bought a digital kit off of Facebook Marketplace so I could do those shows. It just like, I said yes, and then it was like one hiccup after another on so I got this kind of a low-end Yamaha digital kit, and no kidding, he says, do you know what a Motown snare is? And I said, yeah, it was right next to this piece of shit at Guitar Center.
What did he do?
He just kind of went, what? But it was one of those situations that, like, by the end of the like 5 or 6 shows I played, it was okay. But it was just like this weird personality deal. So that's probably something I should have said no to. However, I wouldn't have the Motown snare story without that.
Well, that's a great story. She was right next to this piece of shit at Guitar Center.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did a gig one time that was, and it was such a conundrum. It was so polar opposite. It was a completely pro gig, right? I mean, great pay. It was put on by Paramount Pictures. They flew us all over the place. We had our own rooms. It was great. And it was, we backed up all the actors in Star Trek. So whether or not, as a matter of fact, if you go to Medium, I wrote an article about an incident that I had with William Shatner. So if you go to Medium, first of all, if you don't subscribe to Medium, subscribe. There's a ton of information there, and go like and follow me. And I wrote a story on there about William Shatner, and it's a hoot. It's really cool, and it really did happen that way. But we backed up all the Star Trek actors because all of them sang or danced or played guitar or whatever. And we played all these Star Trek conventions all over the world. It's the explanation of what this gig was is way too long. But we played all these weird sci-fi conventions. And I say it's weird. It was actually really cool if you want to know the truth. And then at the end of the show, after the show was over, or not after it was over, but the highlight of the show was a guy by the name of Tim Russ. And Tim's a guitar player and singer, and he was great. And at the time, he had a record deal and he had 2 albums out. So we would back him up and we would play his albums, all original music, and it was a lot of fun. Where I painted myself into the corner with it was exactly what you're saying, Fred. There was one of the guys in the band that was kind of it was his group. He I think he just expected a lot from the band on things that the band they couldn't deliver. You know, the band was good. The players were fantastic. The players were great. They were fun people. If they called me to do it again, I probably would do it again, but I would have different expectations of what to expect from the band. Right.
Yeah.
And it was just, and also I'd never worked with like famous actors before, and that's a whole other animal. That's like really working with famous musicians. It's one thing because they're a musician and you can talk the language and you get each other, but actors and actresses, or even if they're a musician, that's not their chosen profession. So it's a little bit different, it's a little bit, it's a different world. So I think I would go into it with different expectations and not paint myself into the corner of having certain expectations.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure does.
Yeah. I think when you we've all done this where like your expectations or your thought about how things are going to go down could be the complete opposite of what reality is.
Yes.
Always.
Are you prepared to just make that adjustment, or is it just going to ruin your day or your night?
Having expectations is a sure way to get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
You have to accept what things are and then see if it's a good fit for you long term.
With Midline, we always say it's not a show until it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Hey,
Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Until it's all done, and now you can say, okay, this happened.
Yeah.
Sam always says, set your gratitude higher than your expectations. And
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I think he stole that, and he'll tell you that too. I think he stole that from Charlie Daniels. Set your expectations or your gratitude higher than your expectations.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that little saying in and of itself, is a way to, if you don't do that, you're going to paint yourself into that corner.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you have expectations of grandiose things and they don't become grandiose.
Well, I think it depends on what position you're in the pecking order. If you're the traveling headliner and you're used to everything going your way, maybe your expectations can be met.
Yeah, this is true.
Yes.
But even so, you can still have problems go down, equipment failure or whatever. Like if you're using backing tracks or sequencing or whatever, like if you strip all of that away, not that saying that's a bad thing to have it, but if you strip all that away, can you still play?
Right.
Can you still perform? Can you still do the thing?
Right. So right now I've been in touch with a singer-songwriter who needs a drummer for a couple gigs that could lead to more gigs. And what I'm doing, and I'd recommend you do this if you're considering a gig out there, is ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to get on the same page, and why not inquire about details? Like, do you want the drums to be exactly what's on the record, or is it okay to improvise fills? So that's one of the topics that we've discussed. Turns out it's okay to improvise a little bit in this gig, which is good. It's less for me to do since I don't have to memorize what another drummer did note for note. Are click tracks okay? And that's like, well, yeah, we could try out working with click tracks, because I love playing with click tracks, and I want to make sure the tempo is solid all the time, and I know I can deliver an ideal tempo if I'm playing with a click. So being clear on money and rehearsal expectations and travel. And so it just does not hurt to ask questions. I'm not talking about making demands, but clarity, I think, will really, really help you. So you don't find yourself in a gig where you're painted in a corner and it's an uncomfortable situation. I went as far as last night. My wife and I, we just like wrote down kind of like a pros and cons list and then really, really assessed that. It's like, do I think this is a con? It's like, well, maybe I think it's a con to taking this gig. But then as I look into it, it's like, no, that might just be fear based. So I just think it's worth it to make a deep dive. And that's what I'd recommend doing to every drummer. Don't just blindly go in and go, I'll do that gig, because it might be out of your wheelhouse, or it might be more than you can handle, or you may not be the right drummer for them. And then if you can't do it, recommend the very best drummer that you can to take that gig.
Yeah. I think knowing what you're getting yourself into is important.
Right.
But you could do that tactfully, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This conversation could go like on for another hour just based on that. What you're saying, Rik.
Yeah.
Is I would say, like, if you have questions, try to get those all organized before you email or you call or whatever your communication tool is, sending out 3 or 4 questions, which leads to another 15 questions, which leads to another 30 questions.
Right, exactly.
So then the person trying to hire you is like, has this guy done anything before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes back to the very first thing that you said, Fred. Can you play the drums or not?
Yeah.
It's that simple,
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I think when you are, again, if you have expectations, especially going into a new gig, and you're inundating the person that's hiring you, if it's a paid thing, or you're just getting into a band, and if you're inundating them with questions, that's a bit of a for the band leader, maybe a red flag. Like, well, okay, if they have this many questions and this many demands, what's going to happen when the mustard isn't right backstage, or what's going to happen when, you got to drive for 3 hours in traffic and live with this person in a van, I mean, to me, it comes down to you are the perfect shining example. Fred, we need you in here today. Can you do it? Yep, be right there.
There.
And there it is. I mean, that's it. It's not a thing of, well, let me think about it for a minute and let me test the waters. I'm always I tell all my students this. When you come to, and maybe I'm way off subject here, but you can walk up to a swimming pool in the summertime and dip your toe into the pool and go, ooh, that's cold.
Yeah.
Or you can just dive the hell in and get it over with. And I'm definitely a dive the hell in type of guy. So,
well, I think it's been 2 weeks ago now. It was on a Wednesday, and I teach until 7 on Wednesdays. A guitar player friend of mine around 3:00 in the afternoon said, I got a last minute gig at this club for the Boise Blues Society thing. Somebody in the band's sick. They can't do it. So they asked me to come play guitar. Can you come and play time for 3 hours? I didn't know any of the songs. And I said, what do you need me to play? And he's like, it's a lot of shuffle beats and a lot of blues stuff. Okay. So I rearranged a couple students. I'm on the gig. I grab a kick snare hat because that's all I needed to take.
There you go, baby.
Right? And I just said yes.
Yep.
And all I had to do was like, okay, he's going to count this off. He's like, this is a fast shuffle. This is a slow shuffle. This is whatever. This is a halftime shuffle. And he would just count it off and in we go. And then of course, you're watching for body language and cues and things like that and really listening. That's why, like, when I'm teaching, getting my students to listen so that they can make choices as they're playing. But yeah. It's like, I didn't feel painted into a corner to take that job. I was just like, there's a problem and they need a solution, and they're considering me for the solution.
And you go ahead, Rick.
I love how they were so clear with you. Can you come in and play time?
Yeah.
Like that's just lay down a beat. That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Which comfortable to go in and just do.
There was no, I mean, okay, you rearrange some students. Okay, maybe I have this day off, but I'm going to move those students to that day, and I'm going to, as a business person, I'm getting paid for both things. And as a pro, it's so easy to come up with the excuse of why you can't sit down and play. Oh, I can't play because blah, 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 blah,
right.
And that's all fear-based. That's all fear-based. Whenever somebody does that, that's fear-based. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The fact that you did it, way to go.
The more you get out of your comfort zone, the larger your comfort zone becomes. So just keep expanding, keep saying yes. And I think as you get more experience, you start to go, that's maybe not the right thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We're all going to have those. Okay, guys, that was our little dog and pony show today, and I'm going to end the show the same way I started. Go to YouTube, like and subscribe. Hit the button. We need those algorithms and polyrhythms and rock rhythms and jazz rhythms.
There it is.
That's right.
Subscribe to Fred Fisher's podcast, the Drummer G podcast.
Do that.
The wacky holiday of the day. Fred, do you remember what today's is?
Oh, yeah. What is this?
There's two today. It's National Raspberry Day.
Nice.
And it's also Cow Appreciation Day.
Awesome.
So I think that everybody should have a burger.
Oh, man.
Are you a vegetarian? No, I'm not. If God didn't want us to eat cows, he wouldn't have made them out of cheeseburgers.
That's right.
You'll be our week. All right. Enough of this stupidity from Bart Robley and Fred Fisher. Although I am going to come up and have a pickle pizza. I am going to be on your show.
Yeah, the last Tuesday of this month.
Last Tuesday of the month, and I demand a piece of pickle pizza.
Man,
yum.
Sam Morrison needs to come to Boise or close to.
I know, right? We need to do deck in Boise.
I know. We got to figure that out.
We do. We got to figure that out. All right, everybody have a great week. Hey, our deepest condolences to our friend Jeremy Steinkohler and his wife Michelle. They lost one of their pets, and like I said, it's a zoo around here at my house. I have so many animals, so my heart goes out to them. So, thank you guys for watching. Rick, play the drums, baby.
Right, I'll give a little marimba.